Today I'm making Tai Meshi. It's a Japanese dish that combines rice and fish with very little ingredients but makes the most of them, and it creates a beautiful complex mix of flavors, and I really hope that you enjoy this. So Tai Meshi is a Japanese rice and fish dish that I was inspired to make from Samin Nasrat's salt, fat, acid, and heat. It's a traditional Japanese dish. Its flavors are incredibly complex with multiple layers of flavor. It's got some smokiness, some zestiness, fruitiness to it. It's an amazing dish, and I hope you guys will enjoy this as well. First, we're going to make a dashi. To a small pot, heat up 1 quart or 950 milliliters of water and put in a 16-inch piece of kombu. Heat it up until a thermometer reads about 170 degrees, then turn the heat to low. You want to end up steeping your dashi ingredients, not boiling them. Then drop in 13 grams of Katsuoboshi and let this sit for about 15 minutes. Then, strain the dashi and set it aside to cool. Next, we're going to make a Szechuan Peppercorn Salt. Normally, you're going to use Szechuan pepper in the original recipe, but I couldn't find any in my area, and apparently Szechuan pepper and Szechuan peppercorn are close cousins, and they have a similar effect in that they're spicy, zingy, and they have this mouth-numbing effect, as well as having a citrus note to it. To make it, in a non-stick pan, we're adding 3 tablespoons of salt to 1 tablespoon of Szechuan peppercorn. You're going to stir continuously until we have a nicely browned and aromatic mixture. Now transfer that to a food processor so that the Szechuan peppercorn can be grinded to fine grains. You're going to pulse that up, and then you're going to find out that this isn't going to get the job done, and bring out your blender. And do your best to get it as finely chopped as possible. Once that's done, pour it into a container and set aside. Next, we're going into the big boy. We're going to fillet a fish. Now, what I have here is a red snapper. In the original dish, she uses a Thai snapper, and you can use any type of fish here, really. Next time, I would recommend using a fattier, maybe more gelatinous fish, like a turbot or a flounder, if that's available to you, because I think that would provide a far better texture at the end of the dish. So, when you go pick up your whole fish, at the fishmonger or your fish market, make sure to get the fish descaled and degilled and gutted to help you break down the fish. You can also get your fishmonger to remove the head and provide you the fillets himself, but it's always more fun and rewarding to do it yourself because you can control for it, and you can be really proud of yourself when you actually fillet a fish by yourself. Now, to break down this fish, you're going to make an incision right behind the head, right behind the fin. From that point, you're going to run the blade down the length of the spine to create a path for you to cut the fillet. Then you're just going to run the knife down the flesh in single, clean strokes towards the belly until eventually you're able to remove the fillet whole. Don't worry if you leave some of the flesh behind on the fish, that'll end up in the dish anyway. So this dish is pretty forgiving. You don't have to be perfect with it, but you know, it'll help you get you some practice. Now you're going to repeat on the other side, making an incision behind the head, then running the knife down the blade as close to the spine of the fish to create a path. Then follow that path down with your knife in clean, single strokes to create 2 filleted fish and a fish carcass. Next, remove the head of the fish by running your knife down the incision you previously made and applying pressure to cut through the bone. Then place the head and carcass to the side for now. You can wash the head and remove the eyes at this point. Then we're going to reduce the fish down to manageable parts, mainly because it needs to fit into my cast iron pan. So cut the fillets in half, slicing diagonally to cut against the grain. To cut the carcass, the best way is kitchen shears, so cut these into manageable pieces. Next, into a ripping hot skillet, add some high smoke point oil like canola and add your fish parts. Now the goal of this is not to cook the fish fully through. The main purpose of this is to get some color on the fish for additional flavor boost. So the fish only needs to be on there for about 2 to 3 minutes each side. Not enough time for it to cook, just enough time for you to get some browning. And now remember to season with salt once the fish is in the pan. So this next step is to introduce a smoky aspect to this dish, because in the original, you're supposed to grill it over a charcoal grill. But I don't have that, so I just try to make a makeshift smoker. I recommend you kids at home try this if you have the proper materials. However, as you can see from this video, my blowtorch wasn't working very well. If you'd like to try this, get a deep bowl/pot you don't mind burning something in, I use the wok in this case, and drop in several pieces of wood. And in this case, I used chopsticks. And I saw this technique from Chef Masa when he made a smoky burger. So, to your deep bowl or pot, get a wired rack and place into it, and then place your fish on top of the wired rack. Then, using a blowtorch or matches, set the wood on fire. Once you get smoke going, cover it with a lid. In my attempt, I wasn't able to create much smoke, and I'm smelling it to see if I got my desired effect, but it wasn't able to impart much flavor. So if you have a smoker at home, or you're able to actually get a proper blowtorch working and able to get the smoky flavor onto it, I highly suggest you do it. But make sure you don't do this near any smoke detectors, because I unfortunately woke up my family at 3 a.m. so they weren't happy about that. Anyway, onto the assembly of the dish. In a large Dutch oven, layer your dish in this order: 2 cups of washed short grain white rice, 1 6-inch piece of kombu, your fish, 2 cups of dashi, a half cup of white wine for item Garcia, and 4 tablespoons of soy sauce. Cover and bring to a boil over high heat. Then cut the heat to low and allow it to simmer for 7 minutes. Then remove from the heat and let it sit for an additional 10 to 15. Uncover and dispose of the undesirable parts. But remember to pick through the head of the fish. There's a lot of good cheek meat and you don't want to leave that behind. So then remove the rest of the bones, the tail, the head, and then the kombu. Break apart the fish the best you can, and then garnish with 2 scallions and some of the Szechuan Peppercorn Salt to taste. Stir into combine and have yourself a taste. Like I said earlier, I would highly recommend using a more gelatinous type of fish or fattier fish, because I think it would really incorporate into that texture and improve the texture of the dish well. But I didn't have that on hand at this point. I did, however, try to improve the broth. I tried to make it a little bit more unctuous, more deep. You know how in like nice good broths you have, like pho, you have all that fat buildup, the collagen that builds on top of a really deep simmered dish that's really allows for all that protein to break down. So I was going to make a fish stock, but I wanted to make a cheat one, and I tried to use gelatin, but since I don't eat meat, I don't eat meat, I'm pescatarian, so I wanted to use some gelatin, but instead of that I used agar powder, and I messed around with that and I put that into my dashi and trying to mix it in. But what I ended up getting was just crunchier rice. There's like bits and pieces of crunchy agar powder just mixed into the rice, so that didn't really work out too well. So I highly recommend, if you do eat meat, you can actually just improve the flavor of the dish by using some high collagen or high protein content beef stock or chicken stock, or a hack you can use by J. Kenji Lopez Alt in his food lab. What he did was just add gelatin sheets to an already made chicken, to like a store-bought chicken stock, and then you can just add that to your dish, and you have so much more deeper flavor, and it just is so much better that way. So I'd highly recommend doing that. Please leave a comment down below if you like this kind of material, if you like the dish, and let me know what you guys thought of it.